Mermaid sightings from live people. The oceans are beautiful and mysterious. Here are 9 times people claim to see real mermaids. Number 9. Kiryat Yam's mermaids. You might think that most mermaid sightings came from a long time ago, during the ages where people didn't know much about the denizens of the deep. But in fact, some of these mermaid sightings are actually very recent. For example, let's travel back over 10 years to 2009, where in Kiryat Yam's Israel, a sighting of a mermaid on a beach started a citywide hunt for the creature. This all started when one of the people in the city went to the beach and saw a mermaid. Apparently, she was sunbathing. They said, "I was with friends when suddenly we saw a woman laying on the sand in a strange way. At first, I thought she was just another sunbather, but when we approached, she jumped into the water and disappeared. We were all in shock because we saw she had a tail." Upon being spotted, the mermaid went into the waters and out of sight, just as you would expect it to after being discovered. However, the sightings didn't stop there. In fact, they just started. More and more locals came to the spot, and around dusk, the mermaid would occasionally appear, helping fuel the mermaid fever. It's hard to blame them, seeing a sight like that and wondering if their eyes were playing tricks on them or something of the like. It would be special for sure, and you'd want to see it again just to prove it to yourself and others. The fever to find the mermaid/mermaids got so crazy that the town council of Kiryat Yam's Israel offered $1 million reward to anyone who could get definitive proof that the mermaid existed. Sadly, and somewhat obviously, no proof was ever found, and the legend continues. Still, if the mermaid was fake, why did so many people think that they saw her? Number 8. Columbus saw mermaids. Depending on who you believe, the legends of mermaids were started by fishermen and sailors. Which brings us to one of the most famous cases of mermaid spotting, and it was done by none other than Christopher Columbus. That's right, the famous and infamous explorer documented a sighting of mermaids off the coast of the Caribbean. But hold on, there's a catch here. Most legends state that mermaids are rather beautiful, but the ones that Columbus saw was anything but. In fact, they were mannish in quality. At the coast of Hispaniola, I saw 3 sirens, which rose well out of the sea, but they were not so beautiful as they are said to be, for their faces had some masculine traits. The admiral says that he had seen some at other times off the coast of Guinea. Now, some may question whether Columbus really saw anything, but then that would raise the question of why he documented anything at all. He had nothing to gain from it, so why lie? Another explanation that is more plausible is that he saw certain sea creatures, mainly manatees and dugongs, possibly covered in seaweed to make it look like they had hair. Yet another question is now raised. How did Columbus not notice he was looking at sea creatures? Some say that Columbus wouldn't have been hasty to misidentify something, but whether this is the case or not, no one really knows. Number 7. The Maine Mermaid. This is another tale of a town that was turned upside down because of a mermaid sighting, which happened in British Columbia, Canada, specifically near Main Island. It all started when a ferry was working its way around the island when suddenly the passengers were all looking at the shoreline. Why? Because it appeared that a topless blonde woman was there, but as they looked closer, they believed that the woman was eating a raw salmon. What's more, when they looked at her legs, she had a tail of a dolphin or a porpoise. The sightings didn't stop there, though. The next week, another group of passengers on the same ferry saw the mermaid again. Naturally, this got the town into a fever, as they wanted desperately to know if the mermaid was real or a play on their imaginations. The town paper, known as The Colonist, put up a $25,000 reward for the mermaid's capture. It was 1967 when this happened. Funnily enough, after the capture of the mermaid, the townspeople were actually going to have her live in the town itself, which is rather kind of them when you think about it on a grand scale. Sadly, she was never caught, and many feel that this was a ploy for tourism and attention. But if that was the case, why the reports of her eating salmon raw? Number 6. Zimbabwe mermaids. In 2012, in Zimbabwe, a dam was being built by some local workers. Very normal state of affairs on the whole. It was until a mermaid showed up and started to harass the workers. No, seriously. These particular mermaids were called Mamba Muntu, and once they arrived, the workers fled. Why? Because in Zimbabwe, the legend, the Mamba Muntu, are a bad omen, and you don't mess with those because of what they can bring if you tempt fate. So, what was the country to do? Well, local council hired some non-locals to finish the work. In their minds, this was a case of superstition leading on to illogical conclusions. Foreigners wouldn't have that. But then, the new workers fled as well, sightings that the mermaid was there and she was very mad at them. Fed up with this, the council then ordered that rituals be held at the dams in order to cleanse the area and allow construction to continue. Nothing happened after that. So what was the Mambu Muntu? Was it really a mermaid or something else? Number 5. The Cayman. In this story, we're going to South Africa, where a legend grew in 2008 in the form of a cayman, which is their form of the mermaid. A group of friends in the country were going on a camping trip and they set up a camp near the river. One day, though, they heard noises coming from the river, ones that didn't make sense for fish or other aquatic animals of the river. They went to investigate, and they eventually saw a woman in the river. But something was off with this woman. Her skin seemed to glow, and when she turned around to face the group, her eyes were red, like all red. It was also noted that she gave a sorrowful cry when spotted. After a while, the cayman went back into the water and hasn't been there since. In the lore, cayman aren't the nicest of creatures. They'll actually lure you into the water and then drag you down into the depths, giving you objects that you desire. Needless to say, the sightings got a lot of attention, and a lot of people in South Africa are wondering if their legend just truly came to life. Number 4. Death of a mermaid. When you think of Scotland, you likely go towards the legend of another mythical creature known as the Loch Ness Monster. But in fact, the country has one of the most interesting mermaid tales you'll ever hear. In 1830, the town of Benbecula were enjoying their time on the nearby beach. Suddenly, a woman saw something odd in the water. It was a miniature woman, which is what Scots believe are the size of mermaids. The woman alerted her fellow townspeople, and they tried to capture the mermaid, but failed. In the process, though, some boys were able to throw rocks at it, and some of them hit it. A couple of days later, the mermaid actually washed up on shore, dead. She had a scaleless fishtail and was like the legends depicted her to be. After realizing what they had done, the town sheriff declared that they would give the mermaid a proper burial, and they did so, and they actually buried her on the beach itself. Here's the rub. Even though the story has been told for generations, no one can find the grave. That's not to say it didn't happen, but if no one can find it, you have to wonder if it happened at all. Number 3. Arang Ikan. In World War II, around 1943, Japan was fortifying itself in the region of the Indian Ocean, and they had even set up a base in the Kai Islands of Indonesia. Specifically, they put a surveillance group there to monitor things going on in the islands. Sure enough, they started to see things, but not regular things. Weird things. One instance saw them viewing a humanoid creature emerging from the water, but when they looked closer, it had spines on its neck, and its mouth was that of a carp. The creature was continually seen on the waters of the island, and the more it popped up, the more the surveillance team was desperate to figure out what was going on. Eventually, the people of the Kai Islands revealed that the creature was an Arang Ikan, or a human fish. And one day, they actually invited one of the soldiers named Taro Horoiba to come to their village. When he did, he was shown to capture the creature. So why isn't the Arang Ikan a documented part of the world? Well, Horiba decided to bring the zoologist to the village to check out the creature, but no one believed him. So for all we know, there's a human fish swimming around in Indonesia. Number 2. Mystery in New Zealand. A mermaid might have been found in New Zealand in 2014, and this event is causing a stir even to this day. So what happened? A group of fishermen were doing their jobs when suddenly they came across a skeleton. Rightfully concerned, they went to deliver the body, thinking that they found the victim of a crime. But as they looked closer at the skeleton, something didn't add up. Because while parts of it looked human, the rest didn't. The South Island, where the skeleton was found, went crazy with news and wonder about what exactly was found. It was clear to some that the skeleton resembled one who had aquatic features, like a mermaid, but without seeing the body in its prime form, all they could do was speculate. When the authorities couldn't unravel the mystery, the University of Auckland was brought in to help sort everything out. They're still researching what it could be. Number 1. Hudson Site. On the Bering Sea, the one in Norway, not near Alaska, In 1608, a man named Henry Hudson was doing some sailing and exploring when all of a sudden a mermaid popped up next to his ship. She apparently saw him and the rest of his crew and actually called up some of her fellow mermaids to gaze upon them. He wrote down in his journal just how they looked, and it lines up with how the mermaids of many cultures have been described. Now you might be thinking, isn't this the same thing that happened to Columbus? Did they see manatees? That would be a logical assumption. However, there are no manatees in that area at all. What's more, many have argued that Hudson wouldn't have mistaken animals for women, given his experience on the sea. So the question remains, did he actually see mermaids, or was there something else going on? Regardless, the legend of the mermaid persists, and it's not dying anytime soon. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the sightings from people that claim to have seen real mermaids? Do you think that any of them could actually be real? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!